of your daily existence,
Hmm.
your habits.
Hmm.
We aren't just talking about tips and tricks here. We're doing like a full forensic examination of the neurological architecture that shapes pretty much every decision you make,
Yeah,
often without you even realizing it.
that's absolutely right. Our mission in this deep dive really is to debunk that common idea that changing your life needs, superhuman willpower.
Right.
The data from the sources is clear.
Yeah.
Success in habit change is less about sort of moral fortitude and much more about strategy
Strategy.
and understanding how the brain inherently works, its efficiency. We want to show you how to start moving past that "I'll start tomorrow" by making science work for you today.
Okay, let's unpack this immediately then. Because the core mechanism behind every behavior, good or bad, is something called the loop.
The loop.
This is the fundamental cycle your brain sets up to automate behavior.
Yeah, the habit loop is basically the engine of efficiency for your brain. It runs constantly, streamlining your life into these automated patterns.
Mhm.
It consists of three non-negotiable parts. First, the cue.
The trigger.
Exactly, the trigger. A location, a time of day, an emotional state, even the action you just finished that activates the pathway.
So the signal gets sent.
Precisely. Second is the routine. That's the specific action or behavior that follows the cue.
Okay.
This is the habit itself, the scroll, the snack, the run, the meditation.
Right.
And third, crucially, is the reward, the pleasure or satisfaction the brain gets. Often it's a quick hit of dopamine or maybe just a feeling of completion. That reinforces the entire cycle.
And the power of this loop, it becomes really tangible when you look at something super common, like grabbing your phone first thing in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
The cue is waking up, maybe seeing the phone right there.
Mm-hmm.
The routine is picking it up. And the immediate reward, that little shot of dopamine from checking notifications, it satisfies that, primal urge for novelty, connection.
And this is where the neuroscience gets really interesting. Once this loop repeats consistently, the pattern actually shifts location in the brain.
Yeah.
It moves into the basal ganglia.
Okay.
Think of the basal ganglia as like the brain's massive hard drive for automatic processes. It's deep in there. And its function is delegation.
Why delegate? Why does the brain do that? Why not keep everything in the conscious front of mind processing area?
Well, it's an evolutionary advantage. Simple as that. The conscious brain, your prefrontal cortex, uses a ton of energy.
Right.
If you had to consciously decide every single step of tying your shoes or brushing your teeth every morning, you'd burn through your mental energy needed for the big decisions later.
Makes sense.
So by moving behavior to the basal ganglia, the brain frees up that cognitive load. When a habit is delegated, you are literally running on autopilot
Autopilot.
to conserve energy. And that's why fighting a really ingrained habit feels like fighting gravity. Your conscious effort, your willpower, it just runs headlong into the brain's efficient, deep programming.
Wow. Okay. That reframes the whole struggle, doesn't it?
It does.
If the habit's running efficiently on autopilot, then breaking a bad habit can't just be about gritting your teeth and pushing through. That strategy seems flawed from the start.
Exactly. Inherently flawed.
So what is the strategy? How do you actually shut down this efficient negative engine?
Well, it requires disrupting the loop, but crucially without trying to erase it. Erasure is almost impossible neurologically.
Okay.
So we introduced this four-step neuroscience-backed process for strategically breaking those patterns. Step one is the foundation. Identify the cue.
Awareness. But
But-
how specific do we need to get? It's easy to say, oh, I always stress eat, but what does the research suggest for, actionable identification?
You have to be incredibly specific, really nail it down. We recommend writing down exactly when, where, and maybe even why the behavior happens. Is it 3:00 p.m., that post-lunch slump? Is it the moment you walk into the kitchen? Is it after a specific colleague sends an annoying email? The goal is to isolate that single trigger that kicks the basal ganglia into gear.
Okay, pinpoint the trigger. Then, once that cue is identified, we move to the action itself.
Step two, replace the routine. Now, this is often the trickiest part for people.
Right.
You can't just stop the behavior. You have to substitute it with something else. The brain, having been triggered by the cue, is expecting some kind of action.
Okay, give me an example.
Okay, so if your cue is sitting down to watch TV, and your usual routine is reaching for chips.
Yeah.
You replace the chip reaching routine with something that maybe fulfills a similar need, maybe a tactile need or boredom need, but without the negative outcome, like maybe 5 minutes of stretching or grabbing a glass of water first.
But doesn't replacing the routine still feel a bit like willpower, just with extra steps? How is replacement fundamentally different from just forcing yourself not to do it?
It's different because you're acknowledging the cue and the brain's demand for the reward. You're not fighting the urge to respond. You're just updating the response itself.
Okay, updating the response.
So you keep the cue, you change the action, and then you move to step 3, which addresses the most powerful part of the loop, the reward.
Right, the reward. But what if the reward is the bad behavior? Like the reward for feeling stressed is the cigarette or that massive sugar hit. How do you substitute a reward that powerful?
That is the core challenge, absolutely. The substitute reward needs to be pretty immediate and satisfying, even if initially it feels less potent than the old one.
Okay.
So if the old reward was, say, stress relief via nicotine, the new reward might be 5 minutes of deep breathing or a quick walk outside.
Yeah.
If the new routine is exercise, the reward isn't just long-term fitness. It has to be immediate,
Like what?
like a healthy smoothie right after, or 10 minutes of guilt-free relaxation, or even something small like buying yourself new running socks after a week of consistency. The brain needs that immediate payoff to cement the new pathway.
Okay, immediate payoff. And step 4 focuses on environment, which sounds like maybe the most practical lever we have.
Step 4 is reduce friction for the good habit you want and, conversely, increase friction for the bad habit you want to break.
Increase friction.
Yes, this is arguably the most powerful tool because it kind of sidesteps willpower entirely.
How so?
Well, if you want to stop checking social media first thing in the morning, charge your phone across the room, or even put it in the bathroom overnight.
Right.
That little bit of physical inconvenience forces the basal ganglia to pause the automatic routine. It gives your conscious mind a split second to intervene and choose differently.
So we're basically creating little environmental obstacles to defeat the brain's natural path of least resistance.
Exactly.
And the sources really emphasize here that the standard isn't about achieving some kind of mythical perfection, right? It's consistency that matters.
Absolutely. The moment we aim for perfection, we're kind of setting ourselves up for failure. A slip-up isn't a signal to quit. It's just data. It shows you where your system maybe broke down. You just analyze the lapse, maybe adjust the friction, or tweak the replacement routine.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's flip the script now. We understand how to disrupt the negative loops. How do we use this same science, this knowledge of cues, routines, rewards, to install positive, lasting habits?
We essentially reverse the friction principle. For building good habits, the goal is to make the desired action so easy, so frictionless that resistance just melts away.
Okay.
The first rule here is to embrace what we call the minimum viable action, MVA, or maybe more commonly known as start tiny.
Start tiny. Give us an example of MVA in action.
Okay, so many people fail because their new habit commitment is just too big. It requires too much initial energy or willpower. They say, okay, starting tomorrow, I'll work out for 30 minutes every day.
Yeah, sounds familiar.
That's huge friction. The MVA approach says, I will do 2 push-ups, or I will read 1 page of a book.
Just 2 push-ups, 1 page.
Exactly. When the commitment is ridiculously small, the brain literally can't muster the energy to resist it. You get a quick win, which immediately builds a little confidence and reinforces the idea that, hey, I am a person who does push-ups, or I am a reader.
Okay, start tiny. And the second rule leverages those existing routines we talked about earlier.
Correct. The second really powerful technique is anchor it to an existing routine. This is widely known as habit stacking.
Habit stacking.
Since the basal ganglia is already running millions of routines automatically, like brushing your teeth, making coffee, why not just link your new desired habit onto one of them?
Makes sense.
The formula is super clear. After I existing habit, I will new habit. For example, after I brew my morning coffee, I will review my 3 most important tasks for the day.
Oh, okay.
The established habit, the coffee pouring, acts as the immediate, reliable cue for the new one, the task review.
So you're kind of building a new wing onto an already established neurological foundation.
Right.
Smart. What else fuels this growth?
You need visible momentum. Step 3 is track your progress. Visualization, reinforcement, they're essential here.
Like a chart or an app?
Yeah, whether you use a physical journal, a calendar on the wall, or an app doesn't really matter. The act of checking off a successful day is actually a mini reward in itself. That visual progress, seeing the chain grow, releases a little bit of dopamine, which actively strengthens the neural pathway for that new behavior. You need that continuous feedback loop telling your brain, hey, this new action, it's worthwhile, keep doing it.
Okay, track it. And finally, we get to the fun part, celebrating.
Step 4 is celebrate small wins. Seriously.
Yeah.
We need to infuse the new routine with positive emotion.
Why emotion?
The brain uses emotion as a tag for memory and importance. A quick smile, maybe a literal fist bump to yourself, a moment of quiet satisfaction, or even just verbally affirming, yes, I did it, creates immediate positive feedback.
Okay.
This positive emotion acts like glue, making it much more likely your brain will prioritize running that sequence again tomorrow.
This leads us, I think, very naturally to the biggest question listeners probably have, the timeline. We hear that 21-day rule thrown around constantly, but what does the actual science say about how long it really takes to automate a new habit?
Yeah, it's vital. We address the 21-day myth directly because it trips so many people up. They get to day 22, it doesn't feel automatic, and they think they've failed.
Right.
The studies actually show the window for habit formation is much wider, and it really depends heavily on the complexity of the habit.
Okay, so what's the range?
It takes approximately 21 to 66 days for a new habit to become largely automatic. And for some really complex actions, it could take even longer than that.
21 to 66 days, that's a big range.
It is. So the key isn't hitting some magical day count. It's about managing the journey within that window and beyond.
And managing slip-ups.
Precisely. This is the critical mindset shift.
Uh-huh.
If you slip up on, say, day 35, you have to understand you're continuing the journey. You are not starting over from day 1.
That's huge.
It really is. The lapse is just a moment, a data point. It's not a failure of character. Research shows that one single mistake, or even a few, doesn't significantly derail long-term progress if you get back on track quickly.
So focus on the overall percentage.
Focus on maintaining a high percentage of successful days. Prioritize long-term progress over that impossible standard of immediate perfection.
It makes me think of habits like, I don't know, brushing your teeth. They're simple, regular, totally automatic. They're not meant to feel like these heroic efforts every day.
Exactly. They're just part of the infrastructure of your day.
Okay. So, to recap this deep dive for everyone listening, we've got 3 core takeaways. First, really understand your habit loop, know your cue, your routine, and especially that reward your brain is chasing. Second, replace the bad patterns with better ones. Focus on substitution and strategically play with friction, making bad habits harder and good habits easier.
Crucial.
And third, stay maniacally consistent with small, tiny, minimum viable actions. Start small.
Absolutely. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the real power here, I think, is realizing you're not fighting yourself when a bad habit pops up. You're simply fighting the momentum of really efficient, automated software running deep in your basal ganglia. By applying strategy, not just brute force, you start to shift your identity.
How so?
From a person who struggles with X to a person who consistently does Y, and that identity shift. That's the ultimate reward.
Tiny steps taken strategically today really do create the life you dream of tomorrow. Thanks for diving deep with us.